So now we have 85 stores
Wow.
across nine cities.
Wow. What does that feel
Yeah.
like? Like that reality coming from we started at farmers markets to 11 years later, we've got 85 stores.
It's, so I think when you're in the journey, you don't really kind of appreciate kind of where you've reached, because you're always thinking about, okay, these are all the next problems that have to be tackled. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
So it's not really ever been a point, like it's very rare that we get the chance to sort of sit down and think about like, oh wow, look at how far we've come and where we're at.
Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 1 of a brand new series on the Daily Coffee Pro. Joining me today is Matt Chitharanjan from Blue Tokai. I stuffed your name up. I'm so sorry, Matt.
No problem. Close, very close.
Close. You shall, from every episode from here, be known as Matt C, as all your friends from Wisconsin call you. Matt, welcome to the podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
My absolute pleasure. We met recently at World Coffee Conference in India, and I got pretty obsessed with your brand very quickly. Blue Tokai just blew me away with the level at which you brought me in as a customer immediately. Like the folks that helped me at the stand, whenever I'd ask any questions at World Coffee Conference, they were very engaging. They were very knowledgeable. All the different products that you guys have got, fantastic, world class. And then you taste the coffee and you're like, yes, it actually is fantastic. It hit on every level. So thank you for being everything that I hoped the brand would be, given how popular it is in India. Amazing work.
Well, that's really great to hear. I'm really glad that experience came out at the WCC.
So for those who haven't heard about Blue Tokai or you, please tell everyone what the journey was.
Sure. So Blue Tokai was started 11 years ago, sort of off a whim, really. So both my partner and I, we were at points in our careers where we were kind of tired of what we were doing. I had a background in finance and I was doing a lot of desk jobs. My partner, she had a background in design and communications and PR. And I personally wanted to just do something with my hands, do something physical, not be at a computer all day. And so we were living in Delhi, and this was in 2012. And in 2012, it was very difficult to get good quality coffee. So basically the brands that were available at that time were selling kind of commodity coffee, not freshly roasted, mixed with Robusta, mixed with chicory, or there was very expensive imported coffee. So India has 100% import duty, so you don't really get coffee from around the world. And when you do, it's very price prohibitive.
Yeah. Right.
And so we were just sort of thinking of what we should do. And so we were both very passionate about coffee, and we thought, why not start a coffee company? And because of our backgrounds, we wanted to do it in a specialty way. So I used to live I'm from the US actually, and I was in San Francisco when kind of third wave coffee was really taking off and becoming kind of the mainstream. And so that really got me interested in the sourcing and the roasting and the brewing with the focus on quality. And we found that totally lacking in India at that time. And so we started doing a little bit of research, and we found that there were estates in India who were producing very high quality coffee, but they weren't focused on the domestic market at all. They were going to sort of SCA shows and finding export buyers, and they were focused more on the export market. Because the prevailing wisdom at that time was that Indian consumers weren't ready for specialty coffee. They didn't appreciate it. They didn't understand it. And most importantly, they weren't willing to pay for it. We didn't do any kind of like business plan or market analysis. It was started purely out of a desire for ourselves to have coffee that we wanted to drink. And so we started very humbly. Luckily, my partner's parents had a spare room in their house. We got a little tiny 500 gram roaster, a small Mazda grinder. And then we went down south and we started trying to convince growers to sell us their coffee. And to this day, I still don't know why any of them agreed. We were just like two random people who turned up and said, no, we want to buy your best quality coffee. We're going to put your name on it because it's really important that people know where this coffee is from and the work that you're doing. And surprisingly, no one asked us whether we were from the coffee background or whether we knew anything about roasting. But luckily enough people kind of were persuaded and were willing to take sort of the leap of faith where they sold us their coffee and allowed us to sort of tell their story and promote what they were doing at their estates. But we started very, very simply just selling online, doing sort of farmers markets and just trying to get the word out however we could. Over
How many stores now?
So now we have 85 stores across 9 cities.
Wow. What does that feel like? Like that reality coming from we started at farmers markets to 11 years later, we've got 85 stores.
It's, so I think when you're in the journey, you don't really kind of appreciate kind of where you've reached because you're always thinking about, okay, these are all the next problems that have to be tackled. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
So it's not really ever been a point, like it's very rare that we get the chance to sort of sit down and think about like, oh, wow, look at how far we've come and where we're at.
Friends, World of Coffee Dubai is back in 2024, and I am proud to announce that the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward will be the official podcast partner for World of Coffee Dubai for the second year in a row. The Roasters Village will be a one-of-a-kind destination for all things coffee. As an exhibitor, introduce your artisanal roasts to an international audience and gain valuable insights from their perspective. Visitors, immerse yourself in the celebratory coffee culture experience by sampling exclusive cups poured with passion from cafes worldwide and absorb insights that will elevate your own appreciation of all things coffee. Whether you brew coffee or just love savoring a fine cup, this event gathers the global coffee community under one roof in an amazing city. Join us at World of Coffee Dubai in 2024 at Dubai World Trade Center from the 21st until the 23rd of January. Tickets are available at dubai.worldofcoffee.org, or you can contact us on social media for any questions that you might have at mapforward.coffee. Get your tickets now, folks. Come see the podcast being recorded live, and we hope to see you in January in Dubai for World of Coffee.
It's still kind of involved in what's to come rather than reflecting on where we've come from.
In this series, we're going to have we're going to do 5 episodes on building a specialty coffee brand in a producing country, because this is really unique. Right now, what I'm seeing with a lot of the people that I'm talking with on the podcast is producers coming on and saying, we want to be a part of building a local market. And you've done it. You are the you're the person, you and your partner are the people who have kind of set the stage for specialty coffee in India, right?
So when we started, it wasn't really a concept that people were really familiar with. There were no other brands who were kind of really doing the specialty route. It was more commodity brands. And there were a lot of reasons for that, but and maybe someone who was a bit more maybe smarter than me would have looked at that and said, this is a silly thing to do. And I think that we were early. Like, I think when we started, like there were, 3-4 years where it was kind of a difficult journey. But luckily every year it got a little bit better. And then now in the last 4 or 5 years, it's just exploded in India.
And through this series, we're going to talk about things like, how do you establish a workforce for this many stores? when specialty coffee is not a thing, because the specialty coffee workforce is very different to the commercial coffee workforce. And the understanding of, a really interesting thing you and I spoke about in India was the role that it plays with the system. I think it's called the caste system in India, where like a lot of the people that are working for you couldn't in their normal day actually, they wouldn't go and spend as much as what it costs to drink a specialty coffee So
right? I don't think it's not the caste system. It's just sort of the economic reality of the country. It's more, there's so many people. It's still, despite all the growth, India is still overall a fairly poor country.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that are and like in many places, barista jobs are fairly entry-level jobs. So it's not like you're going to be paid like a super high salary if you're working as a barista. So what's happening is that the people who are coming in and kind of getting trained and working in the stores aren't really the customers. And so that kind of creates an interesting or difficult, I would say, difficult dynamic, because they don't have a lot of the confidence. They come from a different socioeconomic background to really, engage with customers on a level that you would kind of want to deliver in a specialty coffee experience, right? So and the challenge for us is how can we build up confidence? How can we build up knowledge? How can we equip these people to build their skills so that they can have that confidence and deliver that experience? Because that's really transferable. If you're great at delivering customer service, you can work in many industries. If you're able to think and be able to sell a product and explain a product, that can also work in many different industries. So it's not necessarily that the skills that we're providing only apply to being a barista. They're very, very useful just in any job.
When you look at building Blue Tokai, what was the hardest parts of it?
I think one of the big challenges that we had was the fact that, so we're in specialty coffee. So first of all, coffee in India is considered niche. People think of India as a tea drinking country. I mean, that's partially true. In the South, there's always been, for centuries, there's been a strong coffee drinking culture, but in much of the country, people drink tea. So automatically, by being in coffee, you're pigeonholed as sort of some niche brand.
With 85 stores.
We don't want to. Yeah, well, now you want to get into the 85 stores was the challenge, because then now we're saying it's not just coffee I want to do. I want to do specialty coffee. I only want to buy the best coffee. I want to tell it in a particular way. I want to get fancy machines to brew that coffee and roast that coffee, and that requires a lot of money. And we're not from none of the partners had the capital to do that. So actually raising that money over time has been quite a challenge, because you have to be able to convince people that this is actually something that
legit
not only is worth doing, but achievable and can become a significant business in the future. And I would say for the bulk of the journey, that was a challenge, especially because in India, people, or sort of where the market is right now, cafes are incredibly important. But in India, running cafes is quite different than running cafes in other parts of the world. The regulations are different. You'll have all kinds of random people coming to you, telling them that you broke this law, so pay me. You did this wrong.
Sounds like California, bro.
At least in California, people know the rules. Yeah,
right.
Here the rules are made in such a way so that you can never be totally compliant, right?
That sounds fun.
So. Yeah. And so now people don't want to necessarily, those are very difficult businesses. So people don't want to fund that. People are more interested in funding kind of product businesses because they see that that's an easier, more scalable path. But for specialty, and our feeling is that ultimately it's the taste of the product that's going to convert people. If you just put some fancy packaging on the shelf, 9 out of 10 people are not going to understand it, and they're not going to pick it up. By having the cafes and getting people to enjoy the product, that's really how you kind of get in with them and convert them. because the great thing about our industry is that once you start drinking specialty coffee, you're not going to want to drink, you can't. Commodity coffee. Yeah. So like anytime I go to a meeting, people are like, do you want a cup of coffee? And I always say, no, I'll have a tea. Even though I'm sure the tea is just as bad as the coffee, but I don't know anything about tea. So I have no benchmark. So I'll drink the tea.
Or orange juice. Always tea or orange juice is the way to go, right? Water.
Water.
that sets us up perfectly for our next episode, folks. Join us as we talk about like what it was like to establish a specialty coffee market where there wasn't one. I can't wait to hear what this was like. We'll see you in the next episode, folks. Peace, love, and peanut butter. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Matt Forward on Patreon and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.